The unexpected guest Marcus Thompson never expected his life to change when he answered that knock on his apartment door. Standing, there was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, with silver-blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the hallway light, the being had 4 arms and eyes that glowed like amber stars. "I am Zephyr of the Cytherian fleet," the alien said in perfect English, though with a musical accent. "My ship has crashed in your city's outskirts. I require temporary shelter while my people arrange rescue." Marcus blinked twice. This was Tuesday evening in downtown Chicago, and aliens were supposed to be science fiction. Yet here stood living, proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. The creature's breathing was labored, and one of its 4 arms hung limp at its side. "You're hurt," Marcus said, his medical training kicking in. He worked as a paramedic and had seen plenty of injuries, though never on an alien. "Come inside." Zephyr entered cautiously, ducking under the doorframe. The apartment suddenly felt smaller with the 7-foot alien inside. Marcus noticed the creature's skin was warm to the touch when he helped guide it to the couch. "Your people know about us?" Zephyr asked, settling onto the furniture with obvious relief. "Some do," Marcus replied honestly. "Government types mostly. Regular folks like me just go to work and wonder if we're alone out here." He gestured toward the stars, barely visible through the city's light pollution. "Guess I have my answer." Now, Zephyr's amber eyes studied Marcus carefully. "You are not afraid. Should I be?" Marcus asked, already gathering his first aid supplies. Fear seemed pointless when someone needed help, regardless of their species. "Most species flee when they first encounter us," Zephyr explained. "We are larger, stronger, and our appearance often triggers prey responses in other beings." Marcus chuckled as he examined the alien's injured arm. "Buddy, I work emergency medicine in Chicago. I've seen scarier things on a Saturday night." The arm appeared to have a fracture, but the bone structure was different from human anatomy. "Your species is unusual," Zephyr observed. "You approach danger with curiosity rather than fear." "That's humans for you," Marcus said, fashioning a makeshift splint. "We're either really brave or really stupid, sometimes both at the same time." As he worked, Marcus noticed something odd. Zephyr's breathing was becoming more rapid, and the alien's skin was growing brighter. The temperature in the room began to rise noticeably. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, stepping back from his patient. Zephyr's 4 eyes widened in what appeared to be panic. "No," the alien whispered. "Something is very wrong. My biology is entering emergency mode. This should not be happening so soon after the crash." The alien's skin began to pulse with an intense light, and Marcus realized their evening was about to become much more complicated. The biological crisis, the apartment temperature shot up 15 degrees in minutes. Marcus yanked off his sweater as sweat beaded on his forehead. Zephyr was now glowing like a living lamp, the alien's silver-blue skin pulsing with waves of light that seemed to follow its heartbeat. "What's happening to you?" Marcus asked, maintaining his distance but ready to help. "Thermal regulation failure," Zephyr gasped, all 4 arms trembling. "The crash damaged my internal cooling systems. My body is overheating, and without proper treatment, I will enter critical phase." Marcus grabbed every fan in his apartment and pointed them toward the alien. It was like trying to cool a furnace with a breath mint. "What happens in critical phase?" "My body will attempt to release all stored energy at once," Zephyr explained through labored breathing. The explosion could level several city blocks. Marcus froze. "You're saying you might explode?" "Not intentionally," Zephyr said, managing what might have been an apologetic expression. "It is a defense mechanism. When we are dying, we release our life force to warn others of our kind about nearby dangers." "Okay, let's not die then," Marcus said, his paramedic training overriding his panic. "What do you need? Medicine? Surgery? A really big ice bath?" Zephyr's glow intensified. "Cytherians require electromagnetic stabilization during thermal crisis. Our ships have specialized chambers, but—" The alien gestured weakly at the apartment. "Walls." Marcus thought frantically. Electromagnetic stabilization. His apartment building was old, built in the 1940s, with thick walls and outdated electrical systems. But his neighbor Jim was an electrician who had installed some serious equipment for his workshop. "I might have an idea," Marcus said. "But I need you to trust me." "I already trust you," Zephyr replied. "You helped me when you could have called your authorities." Marcus grabbed his keys. "Jim!" he shouted, pounding on his neighbor's door. "Emergency!" Jim opened the door in his bathrobe, took one look at Marcus's panicked face, and nodded. "What do you need?" "Big electromagnetic field. Now, life or death." Jim didn't ask questions. He led them to his workshop, where industrial-grade equipment hummed with power. The room was filled with various electrical devices he used for his contracting business. "Will this work?" Marcus asked Zephyr, who was now so bright they could. Barely looked directly at the alien. "Perhaps," Zephyr managed, "but the frequency must be precise. Too much, and it will accelerate the process." Jim looked between them, finally noticing the glowing alien. "Well," he said calmly, "that's new." He moved to his control panel. "What frequency are we talking about?" Zephyr rattled off numbers that sounded like pure science fiction. Jim nodded, as if aliens gave him technical specifications every Tuesday. "Marcus, your friend here is running about 300 degrees, Jim observed, checking his thermal readings. "Whatever we're doing, we better do it fast." Jim's hands flew over the controls, adjusting frequencies and power levels. The equipment hummed louder, and suddenly the air itself seemed to vibrate. Zephyr's glow began to stabilize, the pulsing becoming more regular. "It's working," Zephyr whispered, but Marcus noticed something else. The electromagnetic field was affecting every electronic device in the building. Lights flickered, phones buzzed, and car alarms began wailing outside. "How long do we need to maintain this?" Jim asked. "Several hours," Zephyr replied. Marcus looked out the window at the chaos beginning in the street below. "This is going to get complicated." The government arrives, the black SUVs, arrived exactly 23 minutes after every electronic device in a 6-block radius started malfunctioning. Marcus watched from Jim's workshop window as men in dark suits cordoned off the building. "Federal agents," Jim muttered, not taking his hands off the equipment controls. "Probably wondering why my workshop is putting out enough electromagnetic radiation to scramble military satellites." Zephyr's condition had stabilized, but the alien still glowed like a small sun. The electromagnetic field was the only thing, preventing a catastrophic energy release, and they couldn't turn it off without risking another crisis. "They will want to study me," Zephyr said quietly. "My people have protocols about this. We are not to reveal ourselves to primitive species." "Primitive?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "We got you stable, didn't we?" "You adapted to an impossible situation with limited resources," Zephyr acknowledged. Perhaps primitive was the wrong word. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Someone was coming up the stairs, and they weren't bothering to be quiet about it. "Jim Richardson?" A voice called through the door. "Federal Emergency Response Agency. We need to speak with you about the electromagnetic disturbance." Jim looked at Marcus, who looked at Zephyr. The alien's 4 eyes conveyed a clear message. This was exactly what they had hoped to avoid. "Just a minute." Jim called back, then whispered to Marcus. "What's the play here?" Marcus thought quickly. These weren't soldiers or scientists. They were emergency responders, like him. People whose job was to help when things went wrong. We tell them the truth, Marcus decided. Or at least part of it. He opened the door to find Agent Rebecca Torres, a woman in her 40s with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Behind her stood 2 technicians with equipment that looked suspiciously alien-detecting. "Gentlemen," Agent Torres said, then stopped mid-sentence as she noticed the glow emanating from the workshop. "What exactly are you running in there?" "Emergency medical treatment," Marcus replied, which was technically true. Agent Torres pushed past him and froze when she saw Zephyr. To her credit, she didn't draw a weapon or call for backup. She just stared for a moment, then turned to Marcus. "You're paramedic, right? Marcus Thompson, Chicago Fire Department?" "Yes, ma'am." "And you're treating?" She gestured at Zephyr. That? "Patient confidentiality," Marcus said automatically. Agent Torres almost smiled. "Mr. Thompson, that's an alien." "Patient is still a patient," Marcus replied stubbornly. Zephyr spoke up. "Agent Torres, my name is Zephyr. I crashed in your city and required medical assistance. Mr. Thompson has been providing aid." "The electromagnetic field?" Torres asked. "Necessary. For my survival," Zephyr explained. "Without it, my body will release energy equivalent to a small nuclear device." Torres absorbed this information with remarkable calm. "How long do you need the field maintained?" "Perhaps 6 more hours," Zephyr replied. "And then, my rescue ship will arrive, and I will leave your world." Torres nodded slowly. "Mr. Richardson, can you maintain this setup for 6 hours?" "If I have to," Jim replied. Torres pulled out her phone and made a call. "Command, this is Torres. We have a medical situation that requires the electromagnetic interference to continue. Establish a perimeter and evacuate the immediate area." She paused. "Yes, I know what I'm saying." She hung up and looked at the 3 humans. "Gentlemen, you've just been recruited for the most classified medical emergency in human history. The rescue complication, 4 hours into the electromagnetic. Treatment. Zephyr's rescue ship arrived along with problems no one had anticipated. The sleek silver vessel materialized in the sky above Chicago like something from a dream, its hull reflecting the city lights in impossible patterns. "There," Zephyr said, pointing through the workshop window with one of his 4 arms. "My people have come." But Marcus noticed the alien's tone held worry rather than relief. "Something wrong?" "The ship is broadcasting warning signals," Zephyr explained. "They believe I have been compromised by primitive contact." Agent Torres, who had spent the last several hours coordinating with increasingly confused government officials, looked up from her radio. "Compromised how?" "My people have strict protocols about interacting with developing species," Zephyr said carefully. "They may attempt to erase your memories of this encounter." "Like hell they will," Jim muttered, still manning the controls. That kept Zephyr stable. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. What kind of erasure are we talking about? Before Zephyr could answer, the workshop filled with a brilliant blue light. When it faded, 3 new aliens stood in the room. They were similar to Zephyr, but taller, with darker skin and more elaborate markings that seemed to move across their bodies. Like living tattoos. The lead alien spoke in a language that sounded like music mixed with static. Zephyr responded in the same tongue, but Marcus could hear the argument in their tones, even without understanding the words. "English, please," Agent Torres said firmly. "This is our planet." The lead alien fixed her with a stare that could have frozen lava. "I am Commander Vex of the Catherian Exploration Fleet." This human speaks as if she has authority here. "I do," Torres replied without flinching. "This is sovereign human territory, and your guests here." Vex's skin patterns shifted to what Marcus guessed were aggressive colors. "Your species is not yet ready for galactic contact. This incident will be contained." "No," Marcus said, stepping forward. "It won't." The workshop fell silent, except for the hum of Jim's equipment. 3 advanced aliens stared at one human paramedic who had just told them no. "You saved our crew member," Vex said slowly. "This is acknowledged, but protocols exist for good reasons." "So do ethics," Marcus replied. "Zephyr needed help. We helped. That's what humans do. Your species is known for violence and territorial aggression," another alien added. "Our species is known for a lot of things," Jim said, not looking up from his controls, "including not abandoning people who need help." Zephyr struggled to sit up straighter. "Commander, these humans risked their lives to prevent my thermal collapse. They adapted their primitive technology to save not just me, but their entire city." "Primitive technology?" Jim raised an eyebrow. "This primitive equipment has been keeping your boy here from going nuclear for the past 4 hours." "Commander." Vex examined Jim's setup with what appeared to be growing interest. "These modifications, they are not standard human engineering. Marcus here figured out what we needed, and I made it work," Jim explained. "That's called improvisation." "Improvisation." Vex repeated the word like it was foreign. "This is not in our cultural database. It's making things work when they shouldn't." Marcus explained. "Using what you have to solve problems you never expected to face." The aliens exchanged glances. Their skin patterns shifted through colors Marcus was beginning to recognize as confusion and surprise. "Your species creates solutions without existing frameworks?" Vex asked. "Every day," Agent Torres said. "It's kind of our specialty." Commander Vex stood silently for a long moment, then made a decision that would change human-alien relations. "Forever. Perhaps," he said slowly, "your species is more ready than we believed." The new alliance, 6 months later, Marcus stood in what had once been an empty lot on Chicago's South Side. Now it housed humanity's first official alien embassy, a building that looked like someone had crossed a skyscraper with a spaceship and somehow made it work. "Hard to believe it all started with a knocked-over lamp," Jim said, joining him at the observation deck. "Actually, it started with Zephyr crashing in Lake Michigan," Marcus corrected. "The lamp was just when things got interesting." Below them, human and Catherian engineers worked side by side on projects that would have been pure science fiction a year ago. The electromagnetic stabilization technology Jim had jury-rigged in his workshop was now being refined to help both species in medical emergencies. "Mr. Thompson?" A familiar musical voice called out. Marcus turned to see Zephyr approaching, looking healthier than ever. The alien skin still held its silver-blue shimmer, but now it seemed to pulse with contentment rather than crisis. "How's the new job?" Marcus asked. "Cultural liaison officer is more complex than I anticipated," Zephyr admitted. "Your species asks many questions." "That's humans for you," Marcus grinned. "We're curious about everything." "Indeed. Yesterday, a human child asked me why our ships are round. When I explained aerodynamics, she asked why we don't make square. Ships just to be different." Jim laughed. "What did you tell her?" "That humans might have a point about trying impossible things simply to see if they work." Agent Torres joined their group, carrying a tablet that displayed the day's diplomatic schedule. "The Council wants to establish embassies on 12 more human cities," she reported. "Apparently, our improvisation skills are becoming legendary." "Is that good or bad?" Marcus asked. "Good mostly," Torres replied. "Though the Department of Alien Affairs is having trouble keeping up with all the new protocols." "Department of Alien Affairs?" Jim raised an eyebrow. "They had to call it something." Torres shrugged. "You should see the paperwork for electromagnetic medical treatments." Zephyr's skin shifted to colors Marcus had learned indicated amusement. "Commander Vex says humans have turned first contact into a bureaucratic adventure. That's probably the most human thing we could do," Marcus admitted. As the sun set over Chicago, Marcus reflected on how much had changed. The city's skyline now included alien technology. Children learned about other species in school, and paramedics like himself received training in xenobiology. "Do you ever regret opening your door that night?" Zephyr asked. Marcus considered the question. His life had become infinitely more complicated. He now spent half his time consulting on alien medical emergencies, and the other half explaining to government officials why treating patients was more important than studying them. "No," he said finally. "Best decision I ever made." "Even though it changed everything?" "Especially because it changed everything," Marcus replied. "Change is what humans do best." Zephyr's 4 eyes gleamed with what Marcus had learned was deep affection. "Your species has a saying, 'Fortune favors the bold.'" "That's the one," Marcus nodded. "Perhaps," Zephyr said, "the universe favors the compassionate." As alien ships dotted the evening sky like new stars, Marcus realized that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their willingness to help a stranger, even when that stranger was from another world entirely. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started with a knock on the door.